Here's a couple other little things. It's worth it to remember, I think, that you are always teaching them, not just when you think you're teaching them. When you think you're teaching them, you're preaching to them. And if they're, if they're in their upper grades here, they've heard most of your sermons except the one you're going to send at college time or whatever. But it's okay, you can't resist and there's no harm done, just go ahead and repeat it. But what you need to realize is this, and this is really important to resilience. Your children are going to be the way we were. They're going to learn more from the example you set than the sermon you preach. And the example you set is what happens every day. I thought about this recently when I was hearing an educational writer whom I respect a great deal say this. Imagine two children who are otherwise completely equal in ability and all sorts of things, but one of them never sees his parents read or write to solve a problem. And the other sees this routinely. So there's no preaching going on anywhere. It's just talking about the example here. And he said, you're talking about two completely different school preparation experiences. And I'm not telling you you have to be perfect and totally consistent and you can never have any eccentricities or inconsistencies or whatever. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's worth it to think seriously about what kind of teaching happens in your household that's different from the preaching. So, for example, I periodically meet parents who will agree, yes, TV isn't good for kids and they shouldn't watch so much of it, but it turns out there's a TV in the bedroom. 3/4 of America's sixth graders, 75% of the sixth graders have a TV in their bedroom. Now, there's a lot of reasons to put a TV in a kid's room, but none of them are good. And, we don't have to fight about what to watch and this and that and the other. You do what you want about TV. What I'm suggesting is it doesn't make sense to get after them about watching too much if you do that, or if you watch tons of it. What are they supposed to conclude? Again, it doesn't mean you have to be completely consistent all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But it's worth it to think about the example that's being set. I think it's also important, to realize that the research tells us that most kids are mostly resilient already. Mostly. All children have fragile moments. All of us have fragile moments. Some kids are truly fragile. Most kids don't need a massive amount of intervention to develop resilience. It's going to happen in the normal course. What they often need is for us to provide some of that structure and some of that latitude I talked about. So the structure means to me that not that you get after them about everything, but that you hold the line about the really big stuff. The big stuff, you get to decide. I don't, you do, about what the big stuff is. Right? And a way to do this is this. You find yourself consistently, not now and then, letting your child do something you really don't believe in. Then I think you ought to ask yourself, why are we doing this? And not just what would happen if we stop it, but what will happen if we don't. And if you hold the line, you have to expect that your kids won't like it, and they won't like you. And this is really crucial if you want them to. You have to tolerate this. My mother, you have to do what she said. You have to let them get glad again. My mother, when she was just being rigidly, stupidly unyielding, and my brother and sister and I would tell her so, at times she'd say, well, you'll have to get glad again. And she'd walk off. It wasn't funny, it was enraging. I used to think, I won't get glad. You stay here until you see reason. And it was her way of saying, because your goddamn mother says so. She was sorry she hadn't convinced us, but we weren't talking about this anymore. She was done. Right? And the kids, they do get glad again. And so whatever it is that really is the big stuff in your household, then you hold the line about that. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. And what you're doing is, you got to remember this, you don't say it's a teachable moment. What you're doing is helping them take in things they're going to need crucially in their future. Crucially. And it's a terrible thing to deprive them of this.